Welcome to Ed's Trains. This is a 700E Hudson Vision line that I bought new. It ran fine for a while, and then I had the three blinking lights in the cab, which indicated I had a fan issue. Turned out to be the main smoke generator. The fan motor was bad, and 5 years ago, with the help of folks on the OGR forum, I replaced that fan motor, and everything was fine until last year. It started to act up again. I started to get the three blinks in the cab. Okay, what I'm going to do now is turn the engine on, show you the blinking lights, and then demonstrate how I diagnosed which of the smoke units, because there are two in this Vision line engine, was the problem. So I'm going to turn the power on. And I'm going to fire up the engine. And I'm going to hit the smoke, or the whistle. Okay, the smoke's on, and now you can see the cab lights are blinking. So I was thinking, well, how do I decide which one to replace? So what I did is I went over here, switches that control everything, and there's a switch, program run switch, and the Odyssey switch, and then main smoke and auxiliary smoke, which is the auxiliary is the whistle and main is the stack. So I'm going to turn them both off. There we go, they're both off. And go back to the cab. And I'm going to reset the engine. Alright, so I'm going to blow the whistle. Not a problem. And I'll move it forward a bit. And still no blinking. So now I'm going to turn on the auxiliary smoke, which is the whistle. And here we go. And there it is. You probably can't see it, but there is smoke coming out, and the cab is not blinking. So now I turned off the auxiliary smoke, turned on the main smoke, and you can hear the fan, and there it goes. It's already starting to blink. So now I know I've got to replace the main smoke motor. Well, before I turn the engine over and take the shell off, there's one thing I wanted to point out. This little rod right here is easily overlooked, but if you don't take that off, you can't easily take the shell off, or if you do, inadvertently just power the shell off, you can break this rod. Okay, I'm going to start to take the shell off, and as I mentioned earlier, this little screw and linkage needs to be separated from the shell, otherwise you can damage it. And also it would prevent you from, oops, it's nice when you use the right wrench, taking the shell off. So, got it. And goes in. So there, now you can see that that linkage is separated from the shell. So now I'm going to turn it over and remove the screws and remove the shell. I reviewed my notes from the last time I did this, and I think there are 3 screws that come off in order for you to remove the shell. There's one here, And there are two under the rear truck. One is here, and the other is right there. So I'm going to go ahead and pull those out. And there's also a piece of piping, and I think it's right here, that has to be removed. And then once that's off, the shell will come off. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be back. Okay. In addition to the 3 screws I had mentioned, 2 back here, and this one, there's actually 3 more that have to come out. This long silver one goes down in here, and then there are 2 screws here. Once you pull those 3 out, and that one, which lets you move the front truck so you can get access to these 3 easily, then the shell comes right off. And here we go. I'll do that. Turn this little shell over. And here we go. Okay. The shell is off. Ooh, a couple of more observations. The whistle, good idea to remove that before you turn the shell over. And as you're removing the shell, besides the lubricator rod I mentioned earlier, some of the piping has to come out in order for the rear of the shell to be able to separate. And you know, in addition to the whistle that I mentioned, when you're taking this shell off, you also have to be very careful of the bell so that you don't lose that functionality with the bell. There are 3 plugs that have to come out. Another one here. Take these 2 off, and then unplug this, and you can take the shell completely off. It's not really that. Okay. So I've pulled the 3 plugs off. This goes here. And then once again, as I did last time, I color-coded these. So this is red, it goes into the red slot here. And I've got a blue one somewhere. There it is. There's a blue one, and it goes over here. So I won't forget which plug goes where. So now I'm just going to get this shell out of my way so I don't do any more damage to it. Okay, so okay, well, I have it set up so you can see the arrangement. This is the reservoir with the batting, and the smoke fluid goes in, comes down here. Here's the casing that holds the fan and the fan motor, and down here on this side and on the opposite side is a U-shaped bracket that holds this whole unit in. And so what I'm going to do is remove those 2 screws. This unit will come out, and there are 2 screws under here under the reservoir, and I'll take those out and I'll be able to get into everything. Okay, I'll remove this unit now. Take that screw off. And there's one on the other side. Have that off. Now what I'm going to do is remove the two wires that go into the motor, and then I can lift this whole thing out. Okay, there's a smoke unit. Let me move it out a little bit more so I can work on it. And here's the fan motor, and the two wires that power it come from that connector that I removed. This houses the fan blades, and then here's a little connection between the reservoir and smoke blower. And smoke, it's blowing through the reservoir and then up and out. So I'm going to take this off, and by this I mean the top, the board, so I can look at the batting as well, and then take the motor out as well. Yeah, well, I tested the motor, and it runs fine, and I paused, and when I realized it's like a doctor in an operating room come in to take off the left arm and you take off the right arm. So what I did is I painstakingly took apart the whistle steam, which was running fine, and it's the main motor that has to be replaced, which I'm going to have to do next. Pay attention to details. While I had the motor apart, I dropped just a tiny drop of oil down around the shaft, and then put the battery to it. You can I don't know if you can hear it, but it quiets the motor just a tiny bit, and it's a technique that Rick's Trains had a little YouTube spot on how to reduce the fan motor noise, and that's what he did. He put a drop of oil down the shaft, so that's what I did before I reassemble it. Once I get the main smoke unit out, I won't go through these details because they're all the same. So you put the fan blades back on the motor, and you press it on down, but you want to make sure you don't press it too far down that you don't have a free motion. And then what I do is I put it in and then check to make sure that it's not a problem moving, it doesn't stick anywhere. And this one is fine, so I'll probably move it down just a tad more. There we go. Okay, so I added more smoke fluid, so this is nice and damp. And now I'm going to reassemble this part of it. And one of the things you want to make sure is that you've got space there for the air to flow through into the reservoir, so that smoke has a place to go, and the air has a place to go, rather, to blow the smoke out. So I'm going to secure the top board, and there are, as I mentioned earlier, the 3 screws, so I'll put one in here, which is this one. There we go. And then right here are the 2 brackets that hold the fan and the fan motor. Okay, so what I'm doing is remounting the motor and the fan. Well, a couple lessons. Once again, I thought I was paying attention, but I wasn't. So the bracket for this motor actually goes between the fan housing and the bracket that holds the motor onto this frame. I had it the other way around and I could not get it to work right because the motor was always at an angle, and then I finally figured it out. So that's number one. Make sure that the bracket for the motor is between the bracket for the housing itself, right here, and the housing for the fan. Now, the other thing you have to be careful about, and I wasn't paying attention, and I managed to knock off the two leads from the computer board right here. So I'm going to have to put those back on. Okay, I'm back. I have the leads resoldered onto the board. There you go. I think you can see it. And now I've got the motor in this housing properly. Now I'll put these screws in, these two screws here. Go right in there, and that'll secure the motor. Then I'll test the motor. And then if that all works out, I'll reinstall it and pull out the right fan motor. Okay, so I have the motor installed and the leads attached. So what I'll do is take the battery, and the negative is down there, positive's over there, and if everything works out right, it should go. And we have success. Okay, I put the whistle steam motor back in and the main smoke generator out, but it's really very easy. There were two screws down here that held the bracket that essentially held the entire smoke unit, and there was only one plug that I had to take out from the unit that was over. It was over, let me see if I got it in. It's right here. So that plug goes in there, two screws, and that's it. So I'm just going to take this motor off, test it, I'm sure it's dead, and put a new one in. Okay, here's something pretty interesting. I tested the motor. I think you could hear it. But it doesn't seem to be as robust and at the same pitch as the other one. So I've read that even though the motor might run, it still may be a problem. So I'm going to replace it anyway and hope that that solves my 3 blink problem. Here I'm going to pull this off. Like tweezers on the wire. There we go. Positive lead is off. And I'm going to take the negative lead off. There we go. So now that I have both leads off, I can take the motor out without any real big deal. Once again, I'll just remove these two screws here. There, those two screws. And now the motor should come out. There we go. And so I'll pull the fan off, get a new motor, assemble it, and hopefully everything will work well. Well, I took the batting out of the reservoir, and it is in really, really bad shape, as you can see. There's the reservoir. There's that batting. I mean, it's hard as a rock. Okay. I have everything installed, that unit, the whistle steam, and also the main stack. All the plugs are plugged in to the units. Now I'm going to take the shell, do all the connections, set the shell on, put it on the test track, and let's hope it all works. Okay, so I've got this one plugged back in. Let's see, what color is this? This is blue. So I shall look for the blue, which is, there it is. The blue is over here. And this is red, and red goes right there. And that, I think, does it. Okay, as you can see, the main smoke is on, and we've got whistle steam, and I didn't screw up the bell because it still works. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it? Yeah. Okay, so I've got the truck on. Screw to ground the truck, and now I'm going to put those 3 screws in. There's the first one. And there's the second one. And the third one. And now secure the truck. There we go. So there we go. You have to be sure that you get, there are 2 little holes, one here and one here, that the antenna goes into. You have to make sure that you get that in as you put the shell down. Now I'll move to the rear, do the last 2, and we should be good to go. Oh, one thing I wanted to point out. I somehow, for some way, I cannot find the screw that was originally in here to hold the truck. So I removed this one, which was identical to that one, that held the scale coupler. I'm going to go hunt for a screw to mount the scale coupler, but this way I can still run the engine and not have to worry about it. So let me move to the rear now. And there's the rear truck. So I'll put those two screws in next. Okay, here's the lubricator rod. What I need to do is get it right up there. There we go. And then I've got this little screw. Actually, it's a bolt. Actually, it's complete. So let me turn this over and put the I got it over. There we go. And I'll put the whistle on. I'm going to put it on the test track and fire it up. Okay, there it is. It's on the test track. Get a little whistle. Oh, look at that. Instantly. And I've got main smoke. Okay, well, now I'm going to shut it all down.
Going to the register room to sign out. 5344 out.
Okay, it's on the track. And I'll do a little test run. And fire it up.
5344, you copy? Over. Roger that. 5344 here. I read you. Over. Please start up and stand by for track orders. Roger that. Out.
Okay. So I'm going to turn the smoke on. And I'm going to blow the whistle. And we'll play the bell. It's still working. And what I'm going to do is back it up a bit. Bring it forward.
You're lined up and clear inbound. Over. All clear inbound. 5344 out. out. 5344 out.